Hello. Apology for the crooked camera. It may be crooked right now. I know yesterday in the first video it was really crooked, and I know it's been a little bit crooked right along. Well, I'm setting it on a music stand, and I'm afraid if I mess with it, I'll have it worse. So I'll do the best I can. Now I'm going to get sort of schizophrenic for a couple weeks, or a week at least, maybe more, in the course, because I'm going to divide into two subjects. Typically my first video is going to be Latin and then Greek. And I'm going to approach it in a different way from the way I approach Spanish and French. And then the second video each day will deal with Shakespeare and his plays. So this is the first video. And I wanted to tell you why. I want to explain why I'm doing it like this. In the Renaissance, which is where we are in a chronological survey, with that reconnection that was made to the classical cultures of Rome and Greece, well, many words came into the languages. I'm sure this happened in all the Western European languages, but English is the one I'm dealing with. And in Shakespeare's day, there were an enormous amount of words that came into the language straight from Latin. Now, many had already come into the language through French because of that Battle of Hastings, the Norman invasion, the 200 years where a French-speaking royalty ruled an Anglo-Saxon-speaking England, and the two blending, I've told this many times, into Middle English. So already there was a great mix of Latin words, because French is one of those languages that evolved out of Latin, that Latin drifted into French. You could almost say that French is one of the modern dialects of Latin. So already there were many Latin words in English. Well, with the Renaissance, many more came in with the church and that knowledge. So I think it's an appropriate time to deal with Latin. And if you want to see what I'm talking about here, Better Explained, The Story of English, that's the documentary. I've mentioned it before. It's about 9 hours long. I wish every English teacher in the world would watch it. The second episode is called Mother Tongue, and it deals with what I just was speaking about. But then there's on YouTube. This is on YouTube. There's 7 parts, and either the 6th and the 7th, I don't remember which one it is, but either one of those deals with this very matter that I'm talking about, the great influx of Latin and Greek words. So I recommend that highly. I would say it's required viewing if you're really going to be taking this course. All right, now Latin is, I just looked. I think it's the 14th section of your notes. So this would be on page 14.1. You should have Latin. If you don't have it already, you should have Latin written at the top, centered up. Skip a line, and then here's a few introductory comments. Latin is pronounced approximately 2 ways. I think there's more than 2 ways, but to make it simple, there are 2 ways. That is, i.e., a Latin abbreviation, id est. That is, there's a church way and a school way. When it's taught in school, it's pronounced one way. Not vastly different, but different. This course, myself, I'm going to use the church way. And why I do that is it's the way I know best. There is so much wonderful music that has been composed to Latin words. And if you are in a choir and you get an opportunity to sing this wonderful stuff, Johann Sebastian Bach's B minor Mass, for one example, or Vivaldi's Gloria, well, then you're expected, the whole choir has to pronounce the words the same way, otherwise it doesn't sound good. And so choirs standardly use the church way of pronouncing it, because so much of this is church music. That's what I'm schooled in. I think it will serve you best to pronounce it that way, unless you become a true Latin scholar. All right, new thought. So I'm going all the way over the left. Words, the words the, a, and, they do not exist in Latin. You can't say the word the. That's the most common word we have in the English language. A and an are arguably one word, not two, but they also do not exist. I should have gone on to say, and must be supplied. If you translate from Latin into English, to have it really make sense, you've got to supply them to have it make sense in English. Inflections are extremely important. Inflections are the way words end, the way words change their endings. And if you do not know your inflections, you cannot understand Latin. Not the grammar of it, not what a sentence says. They are extremely important. That's, I think, very frustrating to many Latin students, especially at the beginning. For me, I didn't realize why there had to be so many. It was frustrating for me when I started. Now, eventually, I discovered why, and I realized that it's just wonderful. It's wonderful. Because of the inflections, you can take a Latin sentence and mix the words all up, and it still says the same thing. It's almost like magic. How can that be? Well, the inflections show what's going on in the grammar. It's really quite wonderful. And when I teach German, I'll teach a little bit of German in this course, and then I'm going to teach German, introductory German, again probably next year. In German, inflections are very, very important as well. Very important. Just almost like Latin. All right, and then one other thing to tell you now, L, capital L, that's going to be my definition, or it already is my abbreviation for Latin. Latin is the source of so many derivatives. Derivatives are words that are derived from an older word. The etymology tells the story of how it is. And so conversation in French is conversación. In Spanish, let's see, in Portuguese it'd be conversação. And in English it's conversation. Well, all four of those are cognates, meaning they're like cousins, because all four of those are derived from two Latin words, really. But those are derivatives. And I don't know if I'll come up with numbers or something. I think I'd once heard it was like, I know it's over 50%. I think I want to say 80% of the words in the English language are derived from Latin. I'll have more to say about that. But it's going to affect the way that I go about teaching Latin. Okay, that's enough to say that I've got Latin started. Now we'll go to Shakespeare.